Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Shmuley Show. So great to have you today. We're going to jump straight in because there's just so much to discuss. Of course, Iran is dominating everything. I saw Jon Stewart, who is a really talented broadcaster, Jewish, proud, not pro-Israel, but funny as hell. I saw him mocking President Trump and his strategy on the Iran war yesterday. And he was saying that Trump has no strategy and he's making stuff up. And, you know, there's a method to Trump's madness. And it's kind of weird that people like Jon Stewart don't get it. What is the objective? Let me repeat what we said yesterday. What's the strategy behind the Iran war? Simple. Stop them from getting a nuclear weapon and degrade their offensive capabilities, military capabilities. That's it. It's not regime change. It's not anything else. So when Trump moves all around and it seems like he's changing the goalposts, he's reacting to things in real time. Americans don't want troops on the ground. We know that. I wish there could be regime change. Do I expect it? I don't, unfortunately. But I do expect America to at least walk away with an agreement just on two things: that Iran will never again enrich uranium at all, unlike the stupid, horrible Obama nuclear deal, which was a joke that actually did a roadmap for the Iranians to get a weapon with sunset clauses with no more inspections after 10 years. That was freaking insanity. So deal number one for Trump through Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner is no nuclear enrichment. Forget nuclear weapons. You can't trust them with anything nuclear. They have to turn over their 700 pounds of enriched uranium, which might be on the bottom of Fordo somewhere. No nuclear enrichment whatsoever. Number two, no missile development, no missiles. That's it. If America walks away with an agreement like that, and of course that Iran won't interfere with the oil shipments in the Strait of Hormuz, that's a phenomenal victory. Is it better to get rid of the bullets? Of course it is. Is it realistic? To be honest, I'm probably disappointing you by saying this, and I don't see myself as a weakling. I just see myself as a realist after Afghanistan and Iraq and American non-interventionism. Do we want to get rid of the mullahs? Of course. Do we want the Ayatollahs to roast in hell? Forever. They're pigs. They're the new Nazis. They're rapists, animals, women killers, anti-Semites, America haters, evil terrorists. But they're not leaving yet because we would need boots on the ground. So Trump has to insist on two things. I want to say it again. No nuclear enrichment whatsoever, and Iran turns over all the uranium that they've enriched already, about 700 pounds, enough to make like 10 bombs. Number two, no frickin' missiles. Now, does that mean that Iran is going to behave better and not send out terrorists around the world? No, because they're killers and they're ideological killers and they're demented and they're sick in the head. It does mean that we've had a phenomenal achievement in this war by degrading Iran's capacity, not to kill people fully, not yet, but their capacity to kill people en masse, to do mass killing through nuclear weapons or through giant missiles. That would be a strategic victory. So now, the reports are that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who's kind of all over the place. You know, on the one hand, I want to say I'm a fan of MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, most powerful man in the Middle East, arguably. On the one hand, I want to say I'm a fan because he started with letting women drive. That's a big thing in Saudi Arabia. He's reforming Saudi Arabia, bringing concerts, bringing rock concerts, bringing theater, liberalizing. Then, of course, he cut Khashoggi into pieces. By the way, Khashoggi was not a good person, but God forbid we can justify what happened to him. You silence your critics by destroying their arguments. So the Khashoggi thing is never going to leave MBS completely. But on the other hand, MBS has enacted very important reforms, and he has extended olive branches to Israel. But he's also pulled back a lot of those olive branches. So I kind of like him, except for the Khashoggi thing, which I don't know what to make of it. To be honest, I'm going to have to set it aside right now in favor of the larger considerations of the Middle East. I happen to be a fan of MBS in general. I think he is a real reformer compared to the Wahhabis who controlled Saudi Arabia before. He's a million times better. On the other, and so the reports are that he's pushing Trump not to do a ceasefire with Iran. But I have one question for MBS. Then why aren't you fighting as well? Where's your Air Force? Where are your troops? Why aren't your planes bombing Iran? It's almost like, so many of these Middle Eastern countries, they really fear the instability in the Middle East, or they fear their adversaries. I think Saudi Arabia does fear Iran with good reason. But what, you want Israel and America to do all the work for you? I mean, Saudi Arabia is probably very happy with Israel right now because Israel is taking out Saudi Arabia's foremost enemy, Iran. But why isn't Saudi Arabia fighting in this war? Back in the days, let's remember how this all started. So 1979, Khomeini overthrows the Shah, America's most important ally, maybe in the world at the time, aside from Israel. And we get Khomeini, America's worst enemy. And then the Middle East goes to hell in a handbasket. It's been, and Iran sows division, anti-Americanism, anti-democracy, and especially terrorism all over the Middle East. And they start creating proxies. They take over Yemen. They take over, they tried to take over Saudi Arabia. They failed, but they take over Lebanon. They take over Syria. They take over Iraq. They control 5 major countries. Now, October 7th, one tiny little country, Israel, destroyed Iranian hegemony in the Middle East. They destroyed Hezbollah. They destroyed Hamas. Thank God. Okay. But when all of this started back in 1979, do you remember? The Arab countries let it happen. They all blamed Carter, and Carter was the weakest, worst president we've ever had. Doesn't mean I was happy when he died at 100 or whatever it was like last year. I was sad, but he was good man, terrible president, weakest leader ever, worst president ever, worst, absolute worst, and a total weakling. And he absolutely humiliated the United States and made it into a second-rate military power, which is why the Iranians were able to embarrass us. But right after, a few years after, you had Saddam Hussein going into Kuwait, and then you saw real leadership from the first George Bush 41. We basically said to the Arab countries, no, we're not doing this. You want Kuwait taken back? Then all the Arab countries have to join us. There has to be a coalition. And there was a coalition. And they defeated Saddam Hussein very quickly. Then he made a terrible blunder by leaving Saddam Hussein in power. So his son had to clean up his mess in 2003, and that was a mess. So many dumb mistakes. But the main thing is, Arab countries joined in the fighting in the first Gulf War in 1991. And now they're not joining in the fighting at all. Why not? Why is MBS on the phone with President Trump saying, go fight, fight, fight? Why are America? You see, Tucker Carlson and the anti-interventionist Candace Owens, half of these lunatics, they want America. They're not America firsters, as I said yesterday. They're America onlyers. Only America. Screw the rest of the world. Let the terrorists build up another 9/11 until it happens. Why are we worried about it? Let Iran grow as a cancer until it metastasizes across the Atlantic or across the Pacific and kills us, but it hasn't killed us yet. Let China continue to grow. They're idiots. And they have no foreign policy other than let's not have a foreign policy. But the flip side of it is, the opposite extreme is saying America should do all the fighting and no one else should do any fighting. What the hell is that? Britain sucks. Keir Starmer is a total weakling. So Britain won't fight, even though Iranian missiles can't reach Washington yet. They can reach London. Keir Starmer is a total weakling. He should resign as being Prime Minister of Great Britain. He's an embarrassment to the United Kingdom. To think that he sits in Churchill's chair is an abomination. Then you have Emmanuel Macron, who doesn't know what the hell he's doing 90% of the time. He's always contradicting himself, and really he's just a cheap attention getter. Let's not even talk about him because he's not a leader. He's a PR stuntman. So America's kind of left alone. And that's because Europe doesn't understand the threat of Islamism. They've allowed in, not Muslims who are my brothers, I love Muslims, Islamists, terrorists. Muslims are God-fearing good people who want to support their families like any American family, raise good kids. I'm talking about Islamists who want to destroy Western society, they want to destroy liberal democracy, and they want to kill Western citizens, and especially Jews and Americans. Europe's gone. Europe has allowed in so many Islamists that they're gone. So you can't even rely on Europe. But you can rely on the Arab countries, because the Arab countries, interestingly, they hate the Islamists. The Muslim countries hate the Islamists. Saudi Arabia hates the Islamists. Qatar hates the Islamists. The UAE really gets it. The Emiratis, they hate the Islamists. They fought the Islamists. Egypt hates the Islamists. President al-Sisi understands that the Islamists are going to take over all of Egypt. He fights them. So why are they not joining the United States in fighting Iran? It's the craziest thing. That's where, it's not Tucker Carlson's right. He's an idiot. Tucker Carlson wants Iran to build up a nuclear weapon so they can frickin' bomb Washington. He's an idiot. He has no vision. He has no foresight. He lives, you know that expression, he lives in the moment. He lives in the minutiae of the moment. He has no vision. What his children's America is going to look like, whether they're going to live under the shadow of a nuclear Iran. It's selfish of him that his kids are going to have to clean up his mess because dummies like him want America to never project strength or power. But the opposite extreme is that America does all the fighting. No, I'm not with that at all. And by the way, like Kuwait, we rescued Kuwait. Kuwait is almost in Islamist power today. They didn't join the Abraham Accords. Saudi Arabia is in President Trump's ear every day. Fight Iran, fight Iran. Why didn't you join the Abraham Accords? MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, you're the most powerful man in the entire Middle East. And there's a lot of things about you that are really impressive. You're a reformer. It's really impressive. But why haven't you joined the Abraham Accords? Why haven't you made peace with Israel? which is America's foremost ally? Why haven't you joined countries that are your allies? The Emiratis, the Bahrainis, the Omanis, the Moroccans. Why haven't you joined the Abraham Accords? Which leads us to this super weird thing that you now have Pakistan wanting to host the ceasefire negotiations between Iran and the United States. You know, everything that happens, so much that happens in the Muslim world, and remember, Islam is a great world religion, and that's why I want Muslims to take their religion back from all the lunatics. Unfortunately, the Pakistani government is almost always lunatic. Their prime ministers just get assassinated or they go to jail like Imran Khan. But Pakistan is nuclear armed. I don't trust them with nuclear weapons. They're also crazy, and their government can fall to Islamists tomorrow. I would say 30-40% of Pakistan probably has Islamist tendencies. Pakistan, where Osama bin Laden was in hiding, is going to host the ceasefire talks with Iran. Are you freaking kidding me? Pakistan shouldn't be allowed to have nuclear weapons, either because their government can't be trusted with them, which they can't, or even worse, because Islamists can overtake their government at any moment. So let's not be stupid about all this. So, just to repeat and to be clear, I think President Trump's doing an outstanding job in Iran. I think the people on the left who hate his guts, like Jon Stewart, who's really funny, and that's why his sarcasm is so biting and so effective. I'm a big fan of Jon Stewart. His Jewish hatred of Israel is stinging. It's really unpleasant. On the other hand, he's a moral man. He's done a lot of good things with his celebrity, so I'm not going to demonize him, and I watch him, and he's one of the most talented broadcasters. But he's always making fun of the fact that Trump has no plan, that the country's going to hell under Trump, the Middle East is going to hell under Trump. Really, John? Are you really saying that under Obama it was better? When Obama gave Iran $150 billion, you're telling me Obama had a plan? $150 billion. You know, people complain every day that Israel gets money from the U.S. All of these Israel haters, remember the four horsemen of the apocalypse, I talk about them a lot. Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes. It changes a little bit. But the four horsemen of the apocalypse, every day, America's giving all its money to Israel. Guys, America gave Iran $150 billion. You're going to say it was their money. It wasn't their money. It was the Iranian people's money that was frozen here in America, and we gave it to the mullahs to steal from the Iranian people, $150 billion. Do you know how much America gives Israel every year? About $3 billion. So Obama gave Iran in 1 year what America gives to Israel in 50 years, in a half a century, and no one said a word. Nick Fuentes didn't say a word. Well, he was probably in diapers by then. He's still in diapers. Candace Owens didn't say a word. Oh, she couldn't read and write at the time and can barely do so now. Tucker Carlson, he was probably a liberal back then on MSNBC, where I guess he's just an ideological prostitute. He just sells himself to whoever pays him the most. Now it's probably Qatar, I'm guessing. They didn't say a word. Iran got, let me repeat, from President Obama, the same amount of money that Israel would get in 50 freaking years. And what's the difference? What did Iran do with the money? Blew people up. What does Israel do with the money? Israel is forced to spend all the money, in America, among American military contractors, to create incredible American jobs. Number two, and much more importantly, Israel's the greatest military ally America needs. Israel's like an American aircraft carrier. It's don't get me wrong, it's a sovereign, independent state. It's a sovereign, independent Jewish state. It has to determine its own future, not through the United States. But in terms of American security, it's almost like an American aircraft carrier, American base smack in the Middle East. Democracy, a place that America can always rely on, and intelligence gathering. You know, the thing that we pay for the most in the world today is information. What's the biggest thing in the economy that's going to blow up the economy? AI, information. Everything is information. Intelligence gathering is 1,000 times even more valuable. For used to be 3.3, now it's about $3.7 billion a year. America's getting from Israel maybe $500 billion, maybe $1 trillion a year in information, in unparalleled intelligence. The attack on 9/11, which we're coming up to in 6 months for the quarter century anniversary, 25th anniversary, just cleaning that up cost billions of dollars. And then all the wars cost trillions of dollars. If we had the intelligence, and in that sense, let's face it, I guess, well, it wasn't an attack on Israel, but Mossad failed. CIA certainly failed. NSA failed. Everyone failed. Listen, Mossad failed. with the October 7th attacks. It's not infallible, neither is the CIA, neither are all the American spy satellites. But do you know how many thousands of attacks that you never read about on America are prevented by Mossad? Do you know how many thousands of attacks on Cincinnati, on Kansas City, on Dallas, Texas, on Austin, Texas, on Albuquerque, New Mexico, New York especially, Washington especially, Miami especially, Los Angeles especially, Chicago especially? Do you know how many thousands of attacks never happen because Mossad alerts the American? Mossad has the greatest intelligence gathering operations among the Islamists in the world because Mossad is still brave enough to use real, live infiltrators, very dangerous, putting spies into these. Look at the way Israel decapitated the Iranian government in the first hour of the war. They killed Khamenei. Do you know what kind of intelligence you had to know where Khamenei was? By the way, they say the United States was also part of American intelligence, also probably knew. But American intelligence is extremely electronically oriented. It's about spy satellites. It's about wiretaps and, the most sophisticated. I get it. America's technology is second to none. The only one who is second is Israel. Israel's a tiny little technological superpower. But in addition, Israel actually gets people to infiltrate these places. When you watch a show on Apple TV, and they're showing that on Apple TV that Mossad agents are running all around Tehran, that is a reality. That's not just a show. Mossad has so completely infiltrated, living in Iran, living in Tehran, living in Isfahan, living in Shiraz, and so many other Islamic capitals. And that's why America needs Israeli intelligence. For all those people that say, we're supporting Israel, Israel is giving America the marshals of clothing prices, the bargain basement outlet price, 1,000, on a special, Good Friday sale, whatever that is called, not Good Friday, Black Friday sale. Israel, they're getting this stuff for pennies on the dollar of what it's worth because Israel loves America. And all these dummies, the four horsemen of the apocalypse, would say, we shouldn't give Israel $3.7 billion a year, which, by the way, doesn't come to a fraction of 1% of the American GDP, not a fraction of 1%. All those people that are saying, we should let 4,000 Americans die all over the American heartland. Why should we give money to Israel? Dummies. The money's being spent in America with American companies, but most importantly, you are getting so much intelligence. And for those of you who say, I don't want the intelligence, then why are you spending $16, $20 a month to watch Netflix? Clearly you love information. Why are you spending in addition to that money on Hulu? Why are you spending in addition to that money on Peacock? Why are you spending in addition to that money on HBO Max? Why are you spending in addition to that, Disney Plus? And that's for entertainment. Let alone if I could give you information that someone was going to attack your home or rape your wife, God forbid, or steal all the secrets of your business, or plant a bomb under your car. If you're prepared to give Netflix your $24 a month to watch series that, every 10th series is worth watching, but you'll pay. I pay HBO Max. I don't know what I pay them, $16, $17 a month. I haven't turned on HBO Max since Game of Thrones ended. Or the successor to it. What was it called? I can't remember. That's the only reason anyone bought it. And that's just for a couple of hours of entertainment that I haven't watched in 8 months. And they keep on taking my money for information. Let alone if someone could give Rabbi Shmuley information about all the frickin' people who are threatening to kill me every day. I said, Shmuley, for $20 a month, forget just Hulu. We can give you $20 a month of an intelligence profile about your security and your family and your 9 children and your wife, Debbie. And so many people want to kill you. $20 a month. It would be the best deal I would ever have in my life. And that's what Israel gives to the U.S. 1,000 times more. So we're going to take a short break, but your reaction to what I'm saying is what this show is all about. I want to tell you, I hate ditto heads. It was one of the reasons, although I love Rush Limbaugh, I didn't really listen to his show. Because every caller would call up and say, Rush, you are so smart. I'm just calling to tell you how much I agree with you. Snooze fest. Yawn. It's not that I'm looking for people who disagree with me. I'm looking for people who think. I'm looking for people who have a frickin' brain. I'm looking for people who don't just watch Tucker Carlson to decide what their in the morning to decide what their opinion should be in the afternoon. I'm looking for people who don't just hate and then need Candace Owens to substantiate their hate. I'm looking for people who have a little bit of personality and don't need Nick Fuentes' stunted personality, the virgin Hitler, to give them some form of entertainment as he ad-libs speaking crap for an hour straight. I don't need you to agree with me. I don't need you to disagree with me. I need you to form your own opinion. That's a thinking country. That's a powerful country. You know why America broke away from Britain? It wasn't over taxes and tea. I pay of my income right now, and you're paying the same. We all have to pay 30% goes straight to the federal government. For some of us, a lot more. Then to state governments. I'm in New Jersey. It's another 10, 12%. New Jersey and New York being the highest in America. Then every time you buy orange juice or buy Starbucks, tax. Every time you cross a stupid bridge, tax. I am paying, I'm guessing, 50% of my income to tax, and so are you. You know what we were paying back in George Washington's time with George III, that we rebelled over taxes? If we were paying $1 on every $1,000 we made, I mean $1,000 back then, the equivalent of $1,000, whatever it was back then. If we were paying 1,000th, it's probably accurate. There was a tax on tea. That's it. Today you're taxed on everything you're looking at is taxed. So why did America rebel? If the taxes were really so low, it wasn't about that. It was about who the hell are you, Britain, to tell us what to do? You're across the country, across the Atlantic. You don't let us have representatives in Parliament. Taxation without representation. Who the hell are you? Who the hell are you to tell me what to do? My friends, let me ask you the same question. Who the hell is Tucker Carlson to tell you what to do? Who the hell is Candace Owens to tell you what to do? By the way, who the hell is Donald Trump to tell you what to do? Certainly, who the hell is Rabbi Shmuley to tell you to do? You decide what you want to do. The idea of this show is to empower you to frickin' think. I support Trump's policies, and I wasn't on board with all of them initially, and I'm still not on board with all of them. I will come back and talk about voter registration, why that's so important, and why Trump, even though our airports are really under stress because of our brave security agents from the Department of Homeland Security, the TSA, who are not being paid. But we can't give in on the Save America Act. I'll come back to that. But it wasn't like I agreed with Trump on everything initially. It was a project. It was a process. For Marco Rubio, who's the second most powerful man in the administration and the second most important person in the world. What a tzaddik that guy is. What a righteous man. He ran against Trump. He thought Trump was a danger to America. A lot of people did. Trump has won us over by showing that he's the courageous president who will take on Iran instead of letting our children be killed by them. So, with everything that I'm saying, we'll be back in just a moment. I want your opinion. I want you to comment. I want to read your comments. We're going to, as the show develops, we're going to have ways for you to call up live like I did on, syndicated talk radio. That's one of the, by the way, podcasts have now completely replaced talk radio, right? But the one thing that podcasts lack, talk radio didn't have beautiful lighting, there was no video. I did 7 hours a day, 4 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. I used to do 7 hours of broadcasting a day for years. Imagine that. And I loved it, but it wasn't video. So podcasts are amazing, but they lack the facility for people to call in and give their immediate opinion. And I loved that interaction. We're going to have that. We want the debates. Don't let me frickin' think for you. I have very strong opinions on things, and I want to provoke yours. Moving on. ICE agents at the airport are freaking people out. Now, yesterday, I defended their presence. I even defended, much to the consternation of many of my friends, including many of my producers, the arrest of someone. We said Newark, it was actually San Francisco. And I don't want to regurgitate my arguments other than to say, Aristotle famously said that the way to live is the golden middle ground. You don't take a freezing cold shower. You don't take a scalding hot shower. You take a warm shower. Well, the same thing is true in life. Don't be an extremist. America's become a land of fanatics and kooks. Let's not be that. The problem with Biden with immigration is he went so much to the left, allowing everybody in, that Trump has to balance it by going all the way to the right, maybe even to an extreme. Yeah, having ICE agents at an airport is an extreme. But we have to show people, don't even try to get into the United States until we get the fentanyl crisis under control. By the way, for all of you who care about human life, and we do, and I'm not an America, I'm an America firster, but I'm not an America onlyer, okay? the four horsemen of the apocalypse, the Tucker Carlsons of this world, they're American onlyers. They don't give a damn about the rest of the world. I'm an America first, but we care about the rest of the world as well, of course. Just like with my family. I care about my children, my wife first. They have to. But does that mean we never have guests? We never give charity? God forbid. Then I'd be a jerk, a selfish jerk. So people have to get the message that even though America cares about innocent life everywhere, we have to care about our citizens first, and our citizens are dying of fentanyl. Our citizens are dying. You saw that an illegal immigrant yesterday shot and I think he murdered her, killed an American girl, 18 years old. And there's murders all over America. But these are so senseless. How did these frickin' people get in? So should ICE be at the airports? We have to be a bit extreme right now because people are watching these images and they're very controversial and half of America loves it and half of America hates it. But the rest of the world is watching it. They're getting the message, you know what? Now I can't even get into America through some false papers and a false passport. ICE is even at not only can I not cross the Rio Grande, or I can't even get in through an airport. The only thing is, I have to admit, that looks a little bit ridiculous is the ICE agents don't have any training in passenger screening. So they're not really helping the situation with the TSA. We've got a major problem. You can't have people waiting for 6 hours to get on a plane. President Trump knows this. Now, but for all the people that are saying, America is crumbling under Trump, that Trump is asleep at the wheel. I heard Jon Stewart say this yesterday on The Daily Show. I've said many times that I don't have to agree on his topics. He's a very talented broadcaster. But he's saying that America's going down the toilet with President Trump. And he's giving the example of 6-hour lines, of TSA lines, while Trump is focused on Iran. Now, so here are the facts. Trump is telling the Republicans, you cannot make any agreement with the Democrats to fund the government, and the TSA heroes are paying the price, unless the Democrats agree to the Save America Act. What is it? It's simple. It simply says before you vote, you have to show a driver's license. That's it. That's the whole thing. Let me repeat how simple this is. It says before you vote, you have to show a driver's license or even an electricity bill, something, some form of identification, obviously a passport. I can't believe that the Democratic Party is opposed to this. Let me tell you, I'm broadcasting from New Jersey right now. I'm 15 minutes from Midtown Manhattan without traffic. If I want to see any of my friends for a coffee in their office, in any Manhattan office, for a frickin' coffee, I have to show my driver's license. You can, and that's since 9/11. That goes back 25 years now. You cannot get into any Manhattan office building without showing your ID. And if you come without it and you made a mistake, you show them like a picture of it, they will not let you up. Now, do you think that who your president is, who your congressman is, who your senator is, who the judges are, who the sheriffs are, is a little bit more important than having coffee with your friend or some business meeting that can be rescheduled? You cannot reschedule your congressman for 2 years. You cannot reschedule your senators for 6 years. You cannot reschedule your presidents for 4 years. And some of the appointments are the president will appoint people to the Supreme Court, which is a lifetime appointment. Federal judges, lifetime appointments. So don't tell me that people should not have to prove who the heck they are. I can't even understand what the debate here is. If there is one debate in America that is the stupidest debate that I might have ever heard, it's whether or not people should just show a driver's license before they undertake the single most important civil act they will ever do as a citizen, aside from serving in the military, God forbid, during time of war, which is to vote, which is to exercise your right to vote, to show agency, that you are a free spirit, that you get to decide who represents you in Congress, who will determine the food that you eat, who will determine the drugs that you take. Bobby Kennedy is one of my dearest friends. He's the head of HHS. I think he's doing an amazing job with the Ma. He has his critics. That's the way it should be. America should have, people support you, people criticize you. That's what a democracy is. But he was appointed by President Trump. That was your vote. The drugs you take, the foods you eat, the cars you drive. Should there be subsidies on electrical cars? Should we be so dependent on the price of oil? One of the biggest arguments against the war in Iran is just the price of gas. By the way, I don't have gasoline cars anymore. We have one left. I want to get rid of all of them because I don't want my life to be determined by whether a frickin' boat can sail through the Strait of Hormuz. I don't want the Ayatollahs to control my life. That's one of the main reasons I drive an electric car. Yeah, for the environment, sure, and it's quieter. And I think there's no competition between them. Some people like the revving of like a gas engine, but I don't want the Ayatollahs controlling my life. Screw them. But right now, less than 10% of Americans have electric cars, so we're very dependent on the price of gas. When you vote, you're going to determine things like that. You shouldn't have to show who you really are. You shouldn't have to show an ID. Are you kidding me? We're debating this. You won't let people frickin' drive a car without an ID. You won't let 18-year-olds buy a beer. What am I talking about? You won't let 21-year-olds buy a beer. By the way, that would be a great. Let me tell my buddy, my brother, my producer Eddie. We got to do something on that. By the way, whether the price of beer should be the age of beer, because you know that in Europe, Eddie, it's 21, and here it's 18. A little bit crazy. It's a funny thing because when I take my son, I don't let my kids drink here in America until they're 21. They hate it because when I take them if I take them to Europe, then I love buying beers with my 19-year-old son. But we don't let them buy a beer without showing ID. You can't get into a nightclub without showing ID. You can't get into a bar without showing ID. But you can vote for a president who will either go to war or let Iran have a nuclear weapon. That was the difference between Biden and Trump. You can do that without an ID. So all of you who are condemning Trump and saying, come on, just open the airports and open the TSA, 6-hour lines, you're asking him to give in on something which affects all of our futures. Whether Americans are the ones who are going to make decisions or people who are not American and who have no citizenship who are voting, who, I'm sorry, should not be voting. There can't even be a debate on this. If you're not an American citizen, you can't vote. Listen, I lived in England as rabbi at Oxford University for 11 years. I was not a British citizen. I could not vote. I didn't feel offended by it. Listen, these people were making decisions about my life. I was paying full British taxes like any other British citizen, but I could not vote because I was not a British citizen. And I wasn't offended by it. I completely understood it. Britain ultimately was kind of part-time for me. Even though it was 11 years, 6 of my 9 children were born there. I was very committed to the place, but I was still not a citizen. I could not vote. The idea that anyone here, without saying that they're an American, can choose the American president, an American senator, an American congressman, is an absurdity. So I can make the argument to people like Jon Stewart who are saying America's going down the toilet under Trump, that Trump is finally dealing with endemic problems that everyone else was kicking down the road. I had nothing against Joe Biden. I thought he was a nice guy. I thought he was a sweet old man. I thought he had an incredible record of public service. I think he was also, for all the people who hate him on Israel and think he abandoned Israel in the 1.5 years that he was, 2 years really, essentially, that he was the president while Israel was at war, I couldn't disagree more. He punished Israel at times very unfairly, but 90% of the time he was there for Israel. He armed Israel, went against his own party. I give him a lot of credit. But Biden did not tackle America's problems. He didn't tackle immigration. He didn't tackle sustainable forms of energy, like finding natural gas. He was building more windmills and didn't let us drill here. And I am a baby drill guy, even though no one loves the environment like I do. No one has taken their kids on more hikes, on more kayaking trips, on more rivers, to more lakes, to more oceans, to more frickin' mountains. No father with 9 kids in America, I think, maybe I even can state this definitively, has taken his kids more into nature, on more camping trips, more RV trips than I have. I love nature. I love the environment. But I'm still a baby drill guy. I don't want the Ayatollahs controlling my damn life. I'd rather you all buy electric cars and we become, sure, I'd love to see renewable energy, but we're not there yet. We're not there. Stop fooling yourself. We're not there yet. And we've shown that through technologies like fracking that we thought were going to be horrible and destroy. It's not true. It's not true. Even purple states like Pennsylvania that are not Republican are really into fracking. Biden did not tackle America's endemic problems, and that's one of the reasons. You know the saddest thing about Joe Biden? It's not that he's getting older and he has prostate cancer, and I wish him speedy recovery. The saddest thing about Joe Biden is how quickly he was forgotten. Who even mentions his name? You know, when Trump was out of office for 4 years, everyone talked about Trump. Like him or hate him, he was relevant. Even Obama, till today, everyone talks about Obama. Many people favorably, many people unfavorably talk about Obama. Biden was forgotten instantly. He kicked the can down the. So I say to people like Jon Stewart, no, Trump's ruining the country. What if Trump is actually tackling things that you guys don't want to touch? You don't want to touch voter registration because Every time there's a problem between the Democrats and the Republicans, they shut down the government, and now we got 6-hour TSA lines, so let's have no ID. No, this had to be tackled finally. Immigration had to be tackled finally. The fentanyl crisis had to be tackled finally. Iran and its nuclear weapons had to be tackled finally. And a host of other issues. You know why Trump won me over, as it were? Meaning there was so much about him that I liked from the beginning. Obviously, Jewish, strong support for Israel. Obviously, a robust foreign policy. Obviously, a strong president, a determined president. I also like that he's a very good father. I didn't look at the rest of his marriages and everything are none of my business. He seems happily married to Melania. Before that, whoever he was, I couldn't care less. None of my business. I am, though, a child of divorce, and I do focus on whether a man spends time with his kids. And Trump seems to be a very loving, exemplary father whose kids are very attached to him. Okay, but he had to win me over. You know what won me over more than anything else? And I think I probably speak for most Americans, that Trump has the courage to tackle problems and say things that no one else wants to say. I know you've heard, this is a cliche already. I know you've heard it 1,000 times, but it bears repeating. Trump is prepared to tackle the problems and say the things that no one else wants to say. That's called leadership. You can hate him for it. You know, I've learned as a Jewish leader, as it were, or I hope an American leader in some way, I've learned that, you know what leadership is to me? Leadership is the courage to be hated. It's the willingness to be hated. It's the willingness to do things that cause you a lot of problems and bring you a lot of turmoil. One of my producers told me I should tell you this story. It's relevant, so I'm going to. I'm going to take off my Apple Watch for a second. This is for Anatoly. I want to show you something. So this is my Apple Watch, okay? There's a 22-year-old man who is, you don't see it. Could you zoom in on that? Okay. His name was Mordechai Nalevich. I don't expect you to pronounce it. It's a Polish name. He died when he was 22 years old. Most people have forgotten him, but the anniversary of his murder is in 3 weeks, on April 19th. May 8th he died. He was the head of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. Most people have forgotten that the Jews rebelled against the Nazis in one of the greatest acts of resistance and heroism in world history. So I want to tell you a little story, right? I was in a deposition the other day, and I'm not used to doing depositions. I don't like being litigious with anybody. I was in a deposition all over an anti-Semitic incident where I was threatened with murder, and I got sued over being threatened with murder by an Islamist. A lot of you know the story. I'm not going to go into the details for now. And I was being grilled by very high-priced lawyers, and I was saying, given that I have so much to do, I have children at war right now in Israel, fighting Hezbollah, in Lebanon. May God protect them. I've got 9 kids to raise. I've got an America that I love. I have anti-Semitism to fight. I have frickin' bills to pay. I've got books to read. I have books to write. I'm writing 2 books right now. I said to myself, 9 hours straight of this deposition, like when that anti-Semite Islamist attacked me and said he's going to kill me, what most people would have done is walked away. Shmuley, you should have walked away. Shmuley, if you walked away, you wouldn't be being sued right now by a billionaire. All you had to do was walk away. I don't want trouble. This Islamist saying that the idea for baby killers and Jews are baby. I don't want trouble. And that's what I was thinking for a moment. Did I need this? How many of us have confrontations like that where who needs trouble? Like Trump can say, I don't need the trouble with Democrats. You know what? Everyone's complaining about the TSA. Everyone's complaining about the lines in the airport. I don't need people to criticize me. I don't need to lose the midterms. I'll give them voter registration. I don't need the trouble. Iran, everyone's blaming me for Iran. Trump could say, I don't need the trouble. Let me be popular. Let the price of gas be $2.50 a gallon instead of $4.80 a gallon. Let the Ayatollahs continue a bomb, and it's the next president's problem. I don't need the trouble. But then I looked at what time it was, because the deposition lasts 7-8 hours, and I saw this picture. And this 22-year-old man had a visa to leave Warsaw, where he grew up in Poland, and moved to Palestine, to Israel, which was controlled by the British. And he was on his way, and it was an impossible visa to get. But as he's walking through the mountains, because now he has the visa to get into Palestine, but he has to get past Nazi-occupied Poland, he decides, no, I'm turning around. I need this problem. I'm going to teach the Jews in Warsaw how to fight. We're going to fight the Nazis. I'm going to give up my visa. It was gold. It was platinum. It was the most coveted document on earth at the time to get the hell out of Germany and out of Hitler's Germany and live as a Jew. But this guy decided, no, I'm going back. And then for 3 weeks, he fought the SS. And he fought them so successfully that Heinrich Himmler himself, the second most evil man that ever lived, second only to Hitler, Heinrich Himmler, that disgusting chicken farmer who became the genocidaire who killed 6 million Jews and created the SS, and terrorized Germans, Poles, Czechs, Slavs, Russians. Heinrich Himmler himself had to choose a new commander to fight this unarmed. They had no weapons in the Warsaw Ghetto. They had no weapons. They invented, Molotov cocktails comes from the name Molotov, the Russian foreign minister. They were invented only like a generation before. They had a little bit of oil and gasoline and fire, and they had 1 or 2 pistols, barely any bullets. But he kept the SS at bay for 3 weeks, and he killed about 300 SS. Did it make a difference in the end? Did it? I mean, they lost. Sure, it made a difference. You're part of the difference, because the only reason I'm broadcasting to you right now is because of him. He inspired me. His fight inspired me to fight for America, for independence. Why did we go to Mount Vernon to see where George Washington is buried? To remember that 250 years ago, we're about to have America's birthday, one man said, I'm not going to walk away from this fight. He was a successful planter. Washington was frickin' rich as hell. So was Jefferson. These were rich, rich men. America was created by the equivalent of billionaires at the time. The last thing they needed was a fight, but they didn't walk away. And what's everyone telling Trump to do? Walk away from the fight. My friends, don't walk away from the fight. Fight, fight, fight. You know, this iconic moment in the Trump presidency was when he wasn't president. It was when he was running to be president the second time. And America hated his guts, and it seemed like he could not beat Biden even. But then Biden started to show signs of senility. And I'm not bragging about that. I honestly, I don't dislike Biden. I think it's terrible when people make fun of an old man who's becoming forgetful. It's terrible. But he couldn't be president. Then they said Trump couldn't beat Kamala Harris. Then there was a defining moment that changed the whole campaign. You guys remember it? One lone assassin took a shot at the president of the United States, and he fired a bullet, and by the grace of God, Trump was somehow saved, because he usually showed the slides about immigration at the end of his stump speech, 35 minutes into his stump speech. Here, he went into it in the first 3 minutes of his stump speech. So he turned his head to point to the slide. It should have been 35 minutes later. The bullet really should have gone like John F. Kennedy and blown his brains out, and we would have had the worst video ever, because John Kennedy's video, the Zapruder film, was taken by one Jewish tailor living in Dallas who happened to have a Super 8 camera, or whatever the hell it was. We would have had tons of video, God forbid, of Donald Trump's brain splattered all over Pennsylvania. But a miracle happens, and he turns his head, and he only gets grazed in the ear. He's jumped all over by the Secret Service, and what does he say? Because now he can't practice. You don't practice an assassination. It wasn't like they practiced this. Wait, Mr. President, in case someone shoots you, this is what you should say. This is an unrehearsed, baby. This is the real thing. This is the real Trump. And what does he say? Fight, fight, fight. I loved that moment. So for all of you who are telling Trump, give in on the Voter Registration Act, Save America Act. Let people who are not American determine America's future. I say no, not because they're less than us, but they're not part of the family. Me and my wife are deciding now that I lost my 2 parents, we have to write a will. I wish I'd live forever. I'm not sure I'm going to. And I involve my children in those incredible decisions. A lot of people don't want to involve their children. My children are adults. I've decided to involve them. Would I tell the neighbor or the people that work with me to come into private conversations like that? I'm not crazy. You don't have non-citizens deciding who your president's going to be. Of course Trump should fight for that. And everything else we're fighting for in Iran. And all the people telling him, be popular instead. I want to tell you, there is no worse, weaker, flimsier ideology in life than live to be liked. I hate that philosophy. That is a philosophy of weakness. Live to be liked. You know, one of my producers is Russian. And like any good Russian, he's a patriot. So he actually likes Putin. I don't. And we debate it all the time. I'm not going to get into it right now. I think Putin's a killer. He thinks Putin's probably protecting. And many Russians actually believe that Putin's fighting Ukraine to protect Russian nationalism and that Ukraine broke away and really it's part of Russia. Let's skip that for a second. The one thing I can say is that Putin has never tried to be liked. I respect that about him. I just wish he weren't evil and a killer and a murderer. I wish that the moral principles he stands up for, I wish were more about the blessing of life and not the curse of death. But having said that, I will give it to my producer that Putin never has shown the weakness of trying to be liked. I can't stand leaders who want to be liked. No drama Obama. Remember they called him No Drama Obama. He was liked. Stayed away from controversy. No drama Obama. What the hell does that mean? You're a president without drama? The essence of history is that it's dramatic. I'm Jewish. Our whole history, it's been tragic. It's been triumphant. We've had great moments of victory. We've had great moments of genocide. It's a dramatic history. And I choose to be part of that people, the American people. Look at the wars. America's been in so many wars, such a dramatic history. Some of them were good. Some of them were terrible. Vietnam was a mistake. The Revolutionary War was the right thing. Thank God. The War of 1812 was necessary. The Mexican War may be unnecessary. We could debate all this stuff, but it's a dramatic history. No drama, Obama. Trump is all about drama. Bring it in, baby. When I lived in England, I was bored as hell. When I lived in Europe, I was bored as hell. I was bored as hell. When I lived in Australia, I was bored as hell. That doesn't mean I need to see 15 Jews killed, God forbid, on Bondi Beach to make it interesting. I'm not saying we need murder and death. I'm talking about what does Australia stand for? It's a beautiful country, other than a good life, beautiful beaches, beautiful coastlines. What does it stand for? America is dramatic because it stands for great things. And we need great leadership. We need strong world leaders. And in Trump, we have it. And I'm not saying this is one of these brain-dead Trump guys. Honestly, I'm truly not saying it I'm trying to explain and get to the core of why Trump is admired by so many people who would otherwise hate his guts. There are so many people who should hate Trump's guts who voted for him in the last. By the way, what blew my mind was when Trump won the popular vote. That blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. I thought he would win the Electoral College like he did in 2016, but not the popular vote. Why did so many people who hate this man's guts vote for him? Because people, let's not say the cliche that people respect strength. People respect leaders who don't try to be liked. And they wanted someone who was going to try to make America great again, even though they didn't agree with all of what that recipe was for making America great. But he was going to tackle the subjects that everyone else won't touch because they are unpopular. The price of gasoline in Iran, whether or not we have voter ID to vote, whether or not we're going to drill in places and not just be, I'm sorry, we're not there with solar energy yet. We're not. I remember as a kid, they told me, we're going to have solar panels and you're never going to get, we're not there yet. We're nowhere near there yet. So now we have a choice. Do we drill in America or do we let frickin' Iran? Do you realize that Iran can win this war just by shutting down the oil shipping lanes through one stupid passage in the Middle East? That's how dependent we are on oil. We need more oil from America. This country is huge. And you can't tell me that all of Alaska should remain one giant icicle and that we shouldn't bother one damn moose. I love moose. It's my wife's favorite animal. My God, I took my wife to Alaska. It's like, usually we go to places that I like because my wife will put up with my crazy sense of adventurism. But we've been to Alaska countless times because she wants to see moose. I love moose. I don't want to bother, but I will bother a couple moose. I will force 3 or 4 or 5 or maybe even 100 moose to move once for us to drill and open the Straits of Hormuz. I'm sorry, you moose, but I will do that. Because I'm not going to let the frickin' Ayatollahs slaughter people because I'm not going to bother a moose. The moose will have the rest of the 200 billion acres of Alaska to walk around if we have to give up 5,000 acres to drill. They'll have to suffice with the other 200 billion. By the way, Alaska's so big, you can't even visit it. These are stupid debates. And they're based on ignorance. And that's what so bothers me, that they're based on ignorance. Because progressivism, liberalism, in its more classic name, has ceased to be what it once was. In fact, the last real liberal in all of America is actually Bill Maher. Because Bill Maher is the guy who still articulates, and by the way, I got to know him on his show before he started doing Real Time with Bill Maher on HBO. I got to know Bill Maher when he was doing Politically Incorrect on ABC. I did his show like 10 times. We did Kosher Sex. He hated the idea of kosher sex, but he wanted to debate me. You should watch it. He came backstage afterwards and he was in the green room with me, and he said to me, Shmuley, I love sleeping around, or I don't want to malign him. He said, I like women. I don't like the idea of monogamy. And he's not married, right? He's not into monogamy. Maybe he's into serial monogamy. But we had great debates. You know why he's the last real liberal? Because liberalism was always about openness to other opinion. Liberals never show that today. They shut up anyone who has a different opinion. Bill Maher, liberalism was about supporting women's rights, gay rights. That's why he loves Israel. All the other liberals have turned. They don't give. You have liberals extolling Iran right now or protecting Iran, which hangs gays from cranes. Bill Maher's the last real liberal because he hates religion. Liberalism was about science and not. But he's not a hater. He was never a hater. All these liberals have become such crazed haters. I debated the great liberals who disliked religion. Richard Dawkins, the world's most famous atheist. I debated him 5 times. Christopher Hitchens, a real liberal who died tragically of esophageal cancer about 10 years ago. Maybe the highest IQ of any man that I ever lived, that I ever debated, I ever met. We became good friends, but we killed each other on stage. One of our debates has 24 million views, something like that, on YouTube when we did it at 92nd Street Y, I think in 2010. Look it up. But we ended up loving each other. The only guy that is still like that, who's a liberal in America, is Bill Maher. Open to other views, supports gay and women's rights. He hates totalitarianism. He has a brain and will use it. And when he disagrees with people, he can laugh with them and joke with them and not hate them. He doesn't try to silence people. He's the last real liberal. Everyone says he turned conservative. He's the last real liberal. Do you see that in Bernie Sanders? Who just, the way he talks about, or Senator Elizabeth Warren? Do you see it in Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib? These two, I wear this kippah. And it says to me, Shmuley, you represent something. So the way you behave, Shmuley, let's say I would get on one of these 6-hour lines to catch a plane. Honestly, I'm the most impatient person. I'd be losing my mind. Now, if I started screaming, people aren't just looking at me as an American citizen or a traveler or a tourist or a passenger. Because I wear a kippah, they're thinking he's a rabbi, Orthodox Jew, beard. I have to think about that all the time. How am I serving, if I'm yelling on my TSA line, how am I representing my people? I have no choice. If you put that yarmulke on, you have no choice. You're making a statement. Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, you dress like Islamic women, or Ilhan Omar certainly does, and look at your behavior. It's repulsive. It's disgusting. You hate Jews. You say that they love money and Benjamins. You hate America. You oversaw the greatest, biggest fraud, like in America, almost in American history, or close to it, in Minnesota with your luring centers. There was nothing funnier than that. Kindergartens taking hundreds of millions of dollars from the government for luring centers that couldn't even spell the word learning. Ilhan Omar, you are an embarrassment to Islam. That's what you should feel bad about. The fact that you humiliate yourself with your hatred and everything, that's bad enough. But you're an embarrassment to us. Doesn't that bother you? That you represent your religion like such crap, that people look at you and they begin to hate Islam because of your behavior? I ask myself every day, Rabbi Shmuley, does your behavior reflect well on America? Because when I travel in Europe constantly, I travel around the world constantly, and I'm very American. I'm very American. I have an American accent. I'm boisterous. I'm loud. People know I'm an American. My wife and I did one of those incredible river cruises when I was writing my book on the Crusades through Germany. We were with Australians, Belgians, Germans. I was the only American. Was my behavior reflecting well on my country? I ask myself all the time. Certainly being Jewish, we were the only ones eating kosher on the whole damn ship. Was I representing my religion, my people? Ilhan Omar, did you ever ask yourself that question? Bernie Sanders, you're a Democrat. Did you ever ask yourself that question? That the Democratic Party is becoming just so frickin' hateful? I'm not even going to talk about the fact, Bernie, that you're Jewish, and I knew your brother Larry so well at Oxford. Your brother Larry is such a special man, ate at my house for Shabbos for years. And we didn't agree on anything either, but such a warm man. You're just a hater. You're just like a miserable old clogger who just so negative, so uninspirational. And you know another reason people like Trump? And why he shouldn't give in on all these issues? They like Trump because he actually is funny. It's a weird thing. Trump actually has a sense of humor. I don't see any sense, and that's why they like Bill Maher too. Liberalism once had a little bit of comedy. It was the conservatives who were so damn serious. It was people like Dwight Eisenhower who were seen as grim and glum. Eisenhower was a successful president, but he wasn't an entertaining president. He was a total bore. Great general, boring president. The Republicans were the ones who had no sense of humor. You don't think of William F. Buckley as a guy who had a sense of humor. It was the liberals who made us laugh. Now, can you think of one liberal, one Democratic senator who makes us laugh? The only one that does is John Fetterman. He dresses normally. I love the way he dresses. I love his authenticity. And Bill Maher wins people over, and he's the last liberal because he also makes you laugh. And funnily enough, it's the weirdest thing, but Trump makes me laugh all the time. It's incredible. And laughter is what ultimately brings people together because it takes the sting out of a disagreement. I don't want to see an America which is homogenous. Everyone thinks the same. I don't want to live in Putin's Russia where there's only one party and you can only have one opinion. I don't want to live in communist China where there's only one party and one opinion. I want to live in a diverse country with a lot of opinions, different colors. Let me tell you, America's the most diverse country in the world. I know that because I travel around the world. You go to Europe, it's not diverse. Even our Muslim brothers and sisters who live in Europe, they've never decided to become part of society, so there's no diversity. They're different. They don't want to embrace Western values. That's a shame because they could be religious Muslims like I'm an Orthodox Jew and still be Western liberals. I mean, or at least embrace Western liberal democracy without feeling that they're going to give up, that they're going to give up halal meat or they're going to give up Islamic, not Islamist, Islamic values. But when you go to England, you don't see a lot of black people. When you go to Amsterdam, you don't see a lot of black people. Amsterdam more certainly than cities like, I don't know, Rome. But when you go to America, you see every color. New York City, amazing. I love this country for that reason. And yet we're becoming so dumb because we're so afraid of someone else's opinion. And laughter allows you to hear a different opinion and still hug someone afterward because he made you laugh. That's why people love Jon Stewart. He only does once a week. I don't agree with anything Jon Stewart says, but I watch him every week because he makes me laugh. And he's not a dumb dudgerat. He has a brain. Is he right on the issues? I don't think so. But he makes me think, he makes me laugh, and he's not a hater. Let's go back to that time. And President Trump, I don't want 6-hour lines, but I would rather make sure that you are the president that I chose. Or if it was Biden, it was Biden, and not someone who illegal immigrants chose. That's real elections. And our elections have got to be frickin' foolproof or no one will have any hope or any belief in democracy. They will give up on this country like that. Because our elected leaders are making big decisions where our money goes, where our lives goes, whether our children will be drafted in the army. These are damn big decisions. And we have to know that the people who are making those decisions are American citizens, period.